how can we achieve such an amazing protection of the species in action in a forest in a large zone?
Well, I would say first that we have to accept the fact that we're working with a species which has two very different ways to be related to. There's the wild creature view of honeybees, and then there's the makers of honey view of honeybees. And those two, they're not incompatible. We just have to carve out space for the wild creature view, promote that. I see it a lot as the situation we face is like what ornithologists face. There are people that are fascinated by birds in the form of wild creatures. These are the bird lovers, the birders. And then there are the people that use birds to produce food, the chicken farmers. And those are two very different ways of working with birds, but they're both, they exist side by side because they serve different purposes. So I think just our challenge is to bolster the wild creature perspective on the honeybee. And I think that I'm wonderfully encouraged by this meeting because I see how much support there is for that perspective. For many years I thought I was a voice crying out in the wilderness and being focused on studying how bees live in the wild, not in beehives. So I'm greatly encouraged by this meeting, and I'm delighted to meet with my Polish colleagues who have the native forests and are thinking about how to use those native forests to restore a population of the wild animals, both in Poland and promote the one that exists in Russia. And I have to say, I'll add one more. This is slightly on a different angle. I'm so delighted to see at this meeting not only the support for this perspective of the honeybee as a wild animal, but the engagement by scientists like Torben Schiffer, who realizes, oh, we've got all these unknowns about the biology of honeybees when the bees live in the wild. In particular, Torben is focusing on how the climatic differences, the microclimate differences inside nests differ between a box of a beekeeper versus the tree of the bees in the wild. I think that opens up a whole scientific frontier, and it's fascinating, and I think that will attract more and more interest from the scientists, and so interest from the bees as wild animals. That interest will bubble up on the scientific front, as well as the natural front. So that's my read of the current situation. I'm very optimistic.